It's 2 a.m., and the house is so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat. You've raised your children, built a life, and somehow you still feel like something is missing. Maybe you keep replaying old conversations, wondering what you should have said. Maybe grief visits you at night, when no one else is awake to see it. You tell yourself you're fine, but some nights the silence feels too loud, and maybe, somewhere quiet inside, you wonder if you've already missed your chance to feel at peace. You're not imagining this ache, it's real, and it has a name. But here is something most people never tell you about growing older. The regrets that haunt us most as we age are rarely about the family we built. They are about something deeper, something Buddhist teachers have whispered about for centuries. Tonight, we're going to gently walk through the 5 true regrets of growing old. And by the end, I promise you, you will feel less alone and more at peace than you have in a long time. If you've felt invisible since retirement, you are not broken, you are simply human. If your children call less than you hoped, that pain is real, and it deserves gentleness, not shame. If your husband or wife has passed, and the bed still feels too big, your grief is sacred, not a flaw. If you replay your mistakes at night, please hear me. You were doing your best with what you knew then. So many seniors carry quiet shame for feeling lonely, as if loneliness were something to hide. But loneliness is not weakness, it is simply the soul asking to be noticed again. You have survived more than people will ever know: loss, illness, distance, disappointment. And still, here you are, still searching for meaning, still hoping for healing. That searching itself is beautiful. It means your heart is still alive and still listening. So before we go further, take a breath and let yourself feel held for just a moment. You are not too old to heal, and you are not too late to find peace. Whatever pain brought you here tonight, it was never your fault for feeling it. Now, let's gently begin understanding where these regrets really come from. Let me tell you about a woman named Margaret, 78 years old, living alone in a small house outside Manchester. Margaret raised 3 children, buried her husband, and built a life most people would call good. But every evening, she sat in the same chair by the window, waiting for a phone that rarely rang. One night, unable to sleep, she found her late husband's old journal in a drawer. Inside, he had written about regrets, not about love, not about family, but about himself. He wrote that he wished he had forgiven himself sooner for being human. He wished he had allowed himself joy, instead of waiting for some perfect, peaceful future. He wished he had let go of old anger that he carried for decades, quietly, like a stone in his pocket. He wished he had been kinder to himself, the way he was kind to everyone else. And he wished he had made peace with the fact that nothing, not health, not time, lasts forever. Margaret read these words and wept, not from sadness alone, but from recognition. She realized she carried the very same regrets, even though her life looked nothing like his. That night, something shifted quietly inside her, not loud, just true. She began to understand that these regrets weren't really about family at all. They were about the relationship she had with herself after all these years. Maybe, like Margaret, you've spent your whole life caring for others and forgot to care for the one person who needed it most, you. Maybe you, too, have been waiting for permission to finally rest. Margaret's story isn't unique. It is the quiet story of millions growing older in silence. And it is from stories like hers that Buddhist teachers have drawn gentle wisdom for centuries. So let's walk gently into that wisdom now, the way an old friend would guide you. In Buddhism, there is a gentle teaching that suffering often comes not from what happens to us, but from how tightly we hold on. The 5 regrets we carry into old age are not really about the people we love. They are about how we related to our own hearts. But here is what many people never realize. Healing these regrets does not require fixing the past, only meeting it with compassion. The first regret is this: spending a lifetime trying to be who others needed you to be, instead of who you truly were. Buddhism teaches that this comes from attachment, clinging to approval, fear of disappointing those we love. But your worth was never measured by how well you pleased others, and it's never too late to gently return to who you really are. The second regret is carrying anger and resentment for years, like stones we forgot to put down. In Buddhist teaching, this is where karma becomes gentle, not punishing every grudge we hold, simply continues to shape our own suffering. Forgiveness was never about excusing what happened. It was always about freeing yourself. And this is where true healing begins, the moment you choose peace over the old wound. The third regret is waiting for the right time to feel happy, and realizing that time never quite arrived. Buddhism gently reminds us of impermanence, that this moment, just as it is the only one we are ever truly given. Joy was never meant to be earned through perfect circumstances. It was always available, quietly, in small moments. A warm cup of tea, a bird at the window, sunlight on your hands, these were never small. The fourth regret is being far harder on yourself than you ever were on anyone else you loved. But here is what many people never realize. Buddhist compassion, called metta, was always meant to include you, not just others. You would never speak to a frightened child the way you sometimes speak to yourself. So tonight, try speaking to yourself the way you would speak to someone you deeply love. And the fifth regret, the quietest and heaviest one, is never making peace with the truth that life does not last forever. So many of us spend our final years afraid instead of present, bracing for an ending instead of living fully now. But Buddhism does not see death as the enemy. It sees impermanence as the very thing that makes life sacred. Every sunrise you've witnessed, every loved one's laugh, every quiet evening, all of it was precious because it didn't last forever. And this is where true healing begins, when you stop fearing the ending and start gently honoring the life you've actually lived. These 5 regrets are not failures, they are simply doors, gently waiting for you to walk through them toward peace. So let's gently begin healing these regrets together, right now, in this quiet moment. First, place your hand over your heart and simply breathe in for 4 counts, out for 6. This simple breath tells your nervous system that you are safe, here, now, in this very moment. Second, write down one thing you are still waiting for permission to enjoy, then give yourself that permission tonight. It might be a walk in the morning sun, a phone call to an old friend, or simply resting without guilt. Third, think of one person you still resent and silently say, I release this weight for my own peace. You don't have to forget, and you don't have to reconcile. You only have to stop carrying it. Fourth, look in the mirror and say one kind thing to yourself the way you would say it to your own child. This may feel strange at first, but compassion always feels strange before it feels healing. Fifth, each evening, sit quietly for 5 minutes and simply notice your breath without judging your thoughts. This is the heart of mindfulness, not silencing your mind, but gently sitting beside it like a friend. If grief visits you, let it sit beside you too, without rushing it away. Grief is simply love with nowhere left to go, and it deserves your gentleness, not your impatience. Try, when you can, to step outside even for a few minutes and let the sky remind you that you are part of something larger. Nature does not rush toward death. It simply moves through seasons, gently, the way you are allowed to as well. If you have old photographs, take a few minutes to hold them, not with sadness, but with gratitude for what was. Let yourself smile at the memories. Even the bittersweet ones smiling does not betray your grief. And if you feel ready, reach out to one person tomorrow, not out of obligation, but simply to say, I was thinking of you. Healing rarely arrives all at once. It arrives quietly. One gentle breath, one gentle choice at a time. You do not need to carry these 5 regrets any longer. You only need to set them down, gently, today. If you've made it this far with me tonight, I want you to know something important. You are not behind in life, and you are not broken. You are simply a soul still learning to be gentle with itself. The regrets you've carried do not define you. They were simply teachers, and you have already begun learning from them. Tonight, may you finally sleep a little easier, knowing your pain was always understood, even in the silence. And tomorrow, may you wake up and choose just one small act of kindness toward yourself. You have already lived a life full of meaning, even on the days it didn't feel that way. If these words brought you even a little peace tonight, You are not alone. There are so many of us walking this same gentle path. If you'd like more gentle wisdom like this to return to on quiet nights, consider staying with us by subscribing. It truly helps this channel keep reaching hearts like yours. Until we meet again, may you be at peace, may you be gentle with yourself, and may you finally rest.